First encounter and resistance. The endless void of space unfolded ahead of the UESS Andromeda, stars shimmering like distant lighthouses in the abyss. Captain Maya Chen stood on the bridge, her deep gaze locked on the holographic display hovering above the command console. For 3 months, the ship had been navigating the outer edges of charted space, stretching humanity's reach deeper into the unknown. Captain, detecting anomalous energy readings at coordinates 247 to 8932, Lieutenant Raj Patil reported, fingers gliding across his interface. They don't align with any recognized human tech. Maya straightened, brushing a lock of short black hair behind her ear. Put it on the main screen. The hologram shifted, revealing a warped region of space roughly half a light-year distant. The energy pulses flickered in a pattern, almost mechanical in its precision. Could it be natural? Maya asked, leaning in. Science Officer Dr. Elisa Wong shook her head. Unlikely, Captain. Too structured. Too deliberate. My guess? Some kind of spatial perimeter signal. A border. Maya raised an eyebrow. Out here? Humanity had surged through the stars over the last 100 years, but no encounters with intelligent life had been confirmed. There were rumors, of course, ruins on remote moons, eerie signals, but never solid evidence. Nothing like this. Do we approach, Captain? Navigator Sarah Johnson asked, fingers poised above the helm. Maya paused, thoughtful. Their mission was to explore, to expand the boundaries of human knowledge. If this truly marked a frontier, what was beyond? Take us in. Slow approach. Max sensor range. Shields up. The Andromeda crept forward, fusion drives glowing blue against the starlit dark. As they neared the anomaly, sensors returned clearer data. Captain, we're picking up vessels beyond the field, Raj said, voice taut. Multiple contacts, all significantly larger than the Andromeda. A cold shiver rippled down Maya's spine. First contact. After centuries scanning the stars, had they finally found neighbors in the void? Are they approaching? Yes, ma'am. 3 vessels changing course. Fast. High-speed propulsion, far more advanced than ours. Maya gave a small nod, hiding the rush of adrenaline beneath a composed expression. All hands to alert. Open a broad frequency channel. Prepare first contact protocols. The crew moved swiftly, a well-drilled machine. The Andromeda was built for exploration, but like all ships of the United Earth Fleet, it was equipped for defense. Channel open, Captain, Communications Officer Li Wei announced. Maya adjusted her uniform, stepped into the center of the bridge. This is Captain Maya Chen of the United Earth ship Andromeda. We are an exploratory vessel from Earth, arriving in peace. We seek dialogue and shared understanding. For several tense seconds, silence filled the bridge. Then the main display lit up. An alien face appeared. It had elongated features, with greenish skin that looked almost see-through. Its eyes were huge, fully black, with no visible pupils. A row of small, bony ridges lined its scalp down to where a human nose would be. Its thin mouth barely moved as it spoke. Human vessel, the being said in flawless English, causing Maya's eyes to widen in shock. You have entered the protected territory of the Galactic hegemony. This region has remained under hegemony control for 12,000 stellar cycles. Your intrusion is unauthorized and a violation. Maya held her calm, though 1,000 thoughts surged through her. How did they speak English? How long had they been monitoring humanity? We regret any unintended breach, she said diplomatically. We were unaware of your presence or territorial boundaries. We are peaceful explorers, eager to connect with other intelligent species. The alien's expression stayed motionless, but its posture seemed to grow rigid. The hegemony has monitored your species for some time. Your rudimentary technologies did not merit engagement. Until now, you have remained within your assigned developmental boundary. Maya felt a spark of irritation at the condescension, but kept her voice even. We'd be honored to begin formal diplomatic dialogue with the hegemony. Perhaps a meeting could be arranged. That is not required, the alien replied. You will return to zone and resistance. Return to your developmental zone immediately, the alien declared. The hegemony does not negotiate with lesser species. You have one standard rotation to comply, or your vessel will be destroyed, an example to others of your kind. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned quiet. Well, Maya said dryly after a moment. That was unnecessarily hostile. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the crew, easing the tension. Captain, Raj reported, the alien vessels are holding position roughly 50,000 kilometers out. Weapons are active but not targeting us directly. Maya gave a short nod, mind spinning. Dr. Wong, what can you tell me about their tech? Elisa leaned over her console, frowning as she scanned the data. Their energy output resembles our gravitic propulsion, but more sophisticated. The hulls appear to be made of some crystalline alloy we've never encountered. As for weapons, they're definitely armed, but I can't identify the exact mechanisms. Captain, Sarah broke in, I've been studying their maneuvers. They're extremely precise, almost too much so. They haven't altered formation since arrival. Maya tilted her head. Predictable? Yes, ma'am. Feels like a preset protocol, no improvisation. Maya began pacing, options circling in her thoughts. Protocol dictated withdrawal and reporting back to Earth Command, but their arrogance grated on her. They've been watching us, she muttered, keeping us boxed in, like lab animals. And now they expect us to retreat at the first sign of danger, she added, voice rising. Ma'am, they did say they'd destroy us, Li Wei pointed out uncertainly. Maya smiled, the gleam in her eye familiar and slightly unnerving to the crew. Yes, and very clearly in perfect English, almost as if they wanted no room for misunderstanding. She turned to Tactical. Lieutenant Parker, if they really wanted us gone, could they have done it already? Lieutenant Emma Parker tapped a few commands, reviewing sensor logs. Based on their position and energy output, yes. They could have attacked instantly if that was their goal. So it's a bluff, Maya concluded. A scare tactic, push us back without engaging. Or a warning, Elisa offered, giving us one chance to comply peacefully. Possibly both, Maya said. But I don't think they understand us as well as they claim. She tapped her badge. Engineering captain here. How fast can we recalibrate the sensor array for a focused tachyon impulse? Chief Engineer Victor Petrov's gravelly voice answered. Attack impulse? What for, Captain? An experiment? Maya replied. I want to probe their shields, discreetly. A pause. Give me 30 minutes. You've got 15, she said, ending the channel. She turned back to the team. Here's the plan. Lieutenant Parker, prep a sequence of micro-jumps. Random pattern. We'll execute on my signal. Dr. Wong, I want full analysis of their shield harmonics the moment the impulse hits. Patel, scan for any chatter across their comm frequencies. Internal transmissions, encrypted signals, anything. Captain, Li Wei said hesitantly. Are you sure this is the right move? They outgun us, severely. Maya's gaze softened. I hear you, Li. But think about what just happened. An advanced species has been quietly monitoring our evolution, deciding our limits without consent. They've appointed themselves our wardens, and now they expect us to obey like frightened children. If we back down now, we teach them we're easily cowed. She looked around the bridge, locking eyes with each officer. I'm not saying we fight a battle we can't win, but we need to show them that humans don't bend at the first threat. We don't accept invisible cages. If they've really been watching us, then they should know that. 15 minutes later, Andromeda began its maneuver. The focused tachyon pulse surged across the void, harmless but illuminating, touching the alien ship's defenses. Before the hegemony vessels could respond, the human craft darted between coordinates, short, unpredictable jumps. They reappeared at varying vectors, slipping through space in disorienting patterns. "Their shields are adjusting," Dr. Wong said, eyes wide. "But I've got it. Harmonic frequencies follow a formula. They're running on a repeating mathematical pattern." "They're transmitting again," Li Wei called out. The alien face returned to the screen. On screen, black eyes now narrowed, in what Maya interpreted as anger. "Your provocative actions will not be tolerated. This is your final warning." Maya smiled pleasantly. "I apologize for any misunderstanding. We were merely conducting standard exploratory maneuvers to better understand our environment. It's a human characteristic curiosity. Sometimes it gets the better of us." The alien seemed momentarily taken aback by her casual response. "Your primitive displays do not impress the enemy. You will depart immediately, actually," Maya replied, leaning forward. "I've been thinking about your earlier statement. You mentioned that Theony doesn't negotiate with lesser species. That implies you do negotiate with species you consider equals. I'm curious, what criteria do you use to determine a species' status?" The alien's mouth twitched in what might have been. "Surprised this discussion is irrelevant. Comply or face destruction. It seems quite relevant to me." Mai countered, "After all, if we're going to establish a long-term relationship between humanity and the agony, understanding your social hierarchy is important." "There will be no relationship," the alien stated flatly. Maya's smile widened. "I think you'll find that humans are rather persistent when it comes to making new friends. In fact, I'd like to propose a meeting between your representatives in line, perhaps aboard your vessel, as a gesture of our trust." For the first time, the alien appeared genuinely confused. Its large eyes blinked rapidly, and it turned slightly as if consulting with someone off-screen. "Your behavior is unexpected," it finally said. "I get that a lot." Mir replied cheerfully now about that meeting. The Empire's miscalculation. The interior of the Hegemony flagship was a marvel of engineering that would have sent Earth scientists into ecstasies of delight. Crystalline corridors stretched in geometric precision, bathed in a soft blue light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Captain Maya Chen walked with confident strides, flanked by two of her officers, Dr. Elisa Wong and Lieutenant Emma Parker, and surrounded by a contingent of Hegemony Guards Thelians who had identified themselves. As the V moved with a fluid grace that dealt their tall, slender frames, their translucent skin revealed shadowy outlines of complex internal organs. Unlike any terrestrial biology, Maya found herself fascinated by the subtle variations in their ridge. Patterns apparently an indicator of rank within their rigid social hierarchy. "Your vessel will remain under surveillance during these discussions," stated their escort of RX, who had introduced himself as Sub-Commander Next Fall. "Any attempted communications or movements will result in immediate termination of this meeting, understood?" Maya replied pleasantly, "Though I assure you my crew has strict orders to behave themselves." What she didn't mention was that those orders included a specific contingency plan that had been rapidly developed during the 4 hours it had taken for the Hegemony to decide whether to accept her proposal for a meeting. They were led into a vast chamber dominated by a circular platform surrounded by tiered seating. Mai recognized the setup immediately. This was not a meeting room, but a judgment hall. The Hegemony had no intention of negotiating. They meant to deliver a formal censure. At the highest tier sat Averses, whose head ridges were adorned with metallic ornaments that caught and refracted the light. Beside this figure sat several others with similarly decorated but less elaborate ridges. The High Executive will now address the human delegation. Next Fall announced Justice in for Maya and her officers Tostened on the central platform. Maya complied, but rather than adopting the submissive posture the V clearly expected, she stood tall, hands clasped behind her back. In a relaxed military stance, the High Executor spoke, his voice deeper and more resonant than the other Vax. They had encountered Captain Mayachin of Earth. You stand before the Judgment Council of the Galactic Hemini for 12,000 stellar cycles. The Gemini has maintained order. Among the stars, lesser species are permitted development within controlled parameters. To prevent chaos and destructive expansion, Maya listened, politely noting the way the high executive emphasized certain words, the suil shift in his posture. When he mentioned controlled parameters, the V's were revealing more than they realized with. Every statement humanity has been designated a Category 3 developmental species. The high executor continued. Your technological advancement is monitored to ensure it does not disrupt the greater galactic balance. Your presence beyond your designated zone is a violation of Hegemony Directive 5291. I see, Maya said when he paused, and may I ask when this designation was decided, and by whom? The high executive blinked those large black eyes, narrowing slightly. The designation was established, 400 stellar cycles ago, by the Classification Council, CCCL, following standard observational protocols. 400 years may amused, that would be around the time of our Industrial Revolution, then interesting timing. She took a step forward, causing the guards to tense. High Executive, I appreciate your willingness to meet with us. However, I believe there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about humanity's current status. She gestured to Dr. Wong, who produced a small holographic project before the guards could intervene. Wong activated it, displaying a complex three-dimensional model of what appeared to be the V flagship. This is our construction of your vessel's internal structure, based on passive scans we conducted during our approach, Mei explained conversationally, as if she were discussing the weather, rather than revealing capabilities that clearly shocked the assembled fracks. We've identified your primary power distribution nodes, propulsion systems, and what we believe to be your central computational nexus. The chamber erupted in hisses and clicking sounds as the V-counselors conferred frantically with each other. The high executive raised a six-fingered hand, restoring order. Such scanning would be impossible with your level of technology, he stated. Though his tone held a note of uncertainty, Maya smiled. Perhaps by your estimation of our technology. Yes, but humans have a peculiar trait. We tend to develop unevenly. While we might lag behind in some areas, we often surge ahead unexpectedly in others. She nodded to Lieutenant Parker, who stepped forward. We've also analyzed your shield harmonics, Parker stated, her voice clear and professional. They operate on a predictable mathematical sequence that cycles every 7 seconds with the right timing. A focused energy burst could create a momentary window in your defense. This was, in fact, a calculated bluff. The Andromeda sensors had detected the cycling pattern, but they were far from being able to exploit it effectively. However, the reactions of the V-counselors, their rapid blinking, and the way several reached for communication devices told Maya that here officers had hit uncomfortably close to the truth. Is this a threat? The high executive demanded, rising from his seat. Maya kept her expression mild. Not at all. It's an exchange of information between potential allies. You've been studying us for centuries. It seems only fair that we share some observations of our own. She paused, letting the tension build before continuing. High executive, the hegemony has clearly established an impressive interstellar civilization. We admire your achievements. However, your assessment of humanity is based on outdated information. In the last century alone, our technological development has accelerated exponentially. As if on cue, her communication device chimed. Maya had set this up before leaving the Andromeda, a perfectly timed interruption that would add weight to her next statement. It seems our reinforcements have arrived, she said, making a show of checking the device. You see, when we realized we might have encountered an advanced civilization, we sent a quantum entanglement message to Earth Standard Procedure. You understand this was true, though the reinforcements were still days away. The Andromeda had indeed sent a message using humanity's newest communication technology, one that the Gemini might not have known. Humans possessed. The high executor's composure cracked slightly. Quantum entanglement communication is a restricted technology. Category 3 species are not permitted. Yes, about that classification. Maya interrupted smoothly. I believe it requires revision. Humanity hasn't been confined to our solar system for nearly 70 years now. We have Colony S on 17 extrasolar planets and mining operations in 26 star systems. She gestured around the chamber. We don't seek conflict with the enemy. In fact, we see tremendous potential for mutual benefit through diplomatic and trade relations, but those relations must be based on mutual respect, not arbitrary restrictions based on outdated assessments. A new voice spoke from one of the lower tiers, a female VX with elaborate mathematical patterns etched into her head. Rage's high executor logic suggests we should reevaluate if the humans possess quantum entanglement communication and advanced scanning capabilities. They have already surpassed several Category 2 civilizations. The High Executor's ridge patterns darkened in what Maya interpreted as displeasure. Counselor Tevron. This is not the appropriate forum for actually, Maya interjected. I find Counselor Tan's perspective refreshing. Perhaps she would be an excellent liaison for establishing formal diplomatic relations between our peoples. This calculated statement had the desired effect of creating visible division among the counselors. Several nodded in agreement, while others bristled at the human presumption. Before the High Executor could respond, alarms began blaring throughout. The chamber AVX officer hurried in, approaching the High Executor, and speaking rapidly in their native language, a series of click-shisses and modulated tones. Maya maintained her composed expression, though internally she was concerned this wasn't part of her plan. The High Executor rose, his black eyes fixed on Maya. 3 vessels have emerged from faster-than-light travel, TRAV. At the border of this sector, they claimed to be human ships responding to a distress call from the Andromeda. Maya couldn't hide her surprise. The reinforcements shouldn't have arrived for at least another 5 days either. Earth Command had developed even faster ships than she knew about, or someone else had been monitoring this region of space seizing. The opportunity. She nodded as if this were exactly what she'd expected. As I mentioned, we sent a message when we encountered Ed, your border standard procedure. These vessels are significantly larger than yours. The High Executive stated a note of accusation in his voice. Of course, Maya replied smoothly. The Andromeda is an explorer vessel. When potential first contact situations arise, we send more substantial ships to ensure proper diplomatic representation. This was complete improvisation, but Maya knew better than to show uncertainty what ships had arrived. They were claiming to be human, and that was enough for now. The High Executive conferred briefly with several counselors before turning back to Maya. This council will recess to assess this development. You will be escorted to a waiting area. As they whirled from the chamber, Dr. Wong leaned close to Maya. Captain, what's going on? Earth couldn't possibly have responded this quickly. I know, Maya murmured. Either someone's pretending to be us, or we have friends we didn't know about. The waiting area turned out to be a luxurious but clearly monitored suite. As soon as they were alone, Maya gathered her officers' close options. She asked quietly if those ships are hostile and masquerading as human. We could be caught in the crossfire. Lieutenant Parker pointed out. Dr. Wong nodded on the other hand. If they are human, perhaps from a classified military program, their arrival dramatically strengthens our negotiating position. Maya considered both possibilities. I think we proceed as if they're friendly until proven. Otherwise, the hegemony reaction tells me they're concerned. They didn't immediately dismiss these new arrivals as a threat. They could easily handle 3 hours later they were summoned. Back to the council chamber, the atmosphere had changed noticeably. Where before there had been dismissive arrogance, now there was cautious assessment. The High Executive spoke without preamble. Captain Chin, we have communicated with the commander of your reinforcement vessels. Their technological capabilities exceed our initial assessment of human development. The Hegemony Classification Council has been convened to reassess humanity status. Maya nodded, maintaining her diplomatic demeanor while, internally, celebrating this shift. We appreciate the HGIM willingness to adapt to new information. This speaks well for our future relations. The Council has granted permission for one of your reinforcement vessels to dock with this station. The High Executive continued there. Commander will join these discussions. Maya felt a flutter of anxiety. She had no idea who was about to walk through that door, or what their agenda might be, but she kept her expression confident as they waited. Minutes later, the chamber doors opened, and a tall, gray-haired man in a uniform Maya didn't recognize strode in. His insignia suggested high rank, but the design was unlike any United Earth Fleet uniform she'd seen. The newcomer bowed formally to the Council before. Turning to Maya with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, Captain Chen, Admiral James Erickson, United Earth Defense Fleet. Your message was received with great interest. Maya managed to hide her confusion. There was no United Earth Defense Fleet at least not officially, but she recognized a quay when she heard one admiral. She acknowledged with a crisp nod. Thank you for your prompt response. Erickson turned to address the Council. High executive members of the Hyman Council. I bring greetings from Earth. While we regret the circumstances of our first official contact, we look forward to establishing peaceful relations between our civilizations. What followed was a masterclass in diplomatic negotiation. Admiral Erickson, whoever he really was, presented data on human technological capabilities that Maya knew to be exaggerated, but not by as much as she might have expected. He spoke of Earth's defensive capabilities, its industrial capacity, and its rapid expansion with a calm authority that clearly impressed the V-counselors by the time the session concluded. 6 hours later, the hegemony had agreed to formal diplomatic recognition of humanity as a Category 2 civilization, with provisional rights to navigate designated trade corridors through hegemony space as they walked toward the docking bay where a shuttle waited to return them to the Androma. Maya finally had a moment alone with the mysterious Admiral United Earth Defense Fleet. She questioned quietly. Erickson's smile was more genuine this time. A necessary fiction, Captain. The ships that responded to your message aren't strictly official private vessels. Maya asked, realization dawning. Let's just say there are elements within Earth's government that have been preparing for this day longer than the general public knows, Erickson replied. Your encounter created the perfect opportunity for a more substantial introduction that might otherwise have been possible. Maya considered this carefully. You've been operating beyond official Earth space. That's how you responded so quickly. You're as perceptive as your file suggested, Erickson said, approvingly. Yes, we've had outposts in this sector for nearly a decade. When your quantum message came through, we couldn't pass up the opportunity. And the hegemony, they didn't detect your operations until now. Erickson's expression hardened slightly. The hegemony isn't as omnipotent as they'd like everyone to believe. They've grown complacent over the millennia. Their patrol patterns are predictable. Their sensor technology effective but static. They haven't faced a serious challenge in thousands of years. Maya processed this information, understanding its implications. They've been containing species. They consider threats, keeping them isolated from each other precisely. Erickson nodded. But humanity has never responded well to containment, and now thanks to your initiative, we have official recognition and navigation rights that will make our expansion much easier. As they boarded the shuttle, Maya looked back at the massive hegemony station. What had begun as a routine exploration mission had turned into humanity's formal introduction to galactic politics. The galactic hegemony had expected humanity to cower and retreat when faced with superior technology and threats. They hadn't counted on human audacity, adaptability, ility, and the simple fact that telling humans they couldn't do something was the best way to guarantee they'd try. The last thing Maya saw before the shuttle doors closed was a group of counselors watching their departure, their black eyes unreadable, but their postures suggesting uncertainty. The message was clear. The galaxy had just become a more complicated place, and humanity had announced its presence not with fear, but with a confident smile and a handshake that wouldn't be refused. As the shuttle detached from the station, Admiral Erickson turned to Maya. Congratulations, Captain Chen. You've just secured humanity's place among the stars. Maya smiled. I just did what any human would do when told to go back to their room and be quiet. Exactly, Erickson replied with a knowing grin. And that's precisely what the Hemini will never understand about us.